Okay, let's begin. Welcome to Hellenic Pagans. My name is Evan Rigakis, and I am your administrator. In this video, I will talk about the ancient Greek gods in general, not individually. I will eventually talk about certain gods, individual gods, but I'll do that in future videos. So I'm just looking at the gods in general. When you're dealing with a polytheism, we're not dealing with just two or three gods. In the Greek traditions, there are over 120 gods and goddesses. I think my last count, I think I was actually up to 125, to tell you the truth. And still, I don't think I even found them all. There will be always ones that are lost in time because of circumstances beyond their control. Okay, and I'm only talking 125 full-on gods. I'm not including like demigods and thousands of nymphs, mythical creatures, divine creatures, whatever you want to call them. I'm just talking about these gods and goddesses. And with, when you get such a large number of them, there would have to be some sort of structure to them. I mean, they can't be just, random all over the place. So, right. So, sorry, that was a thought that I did not process completely. Okay. So yeah, there would have to be some sort of structure, some kind of organization, how to even fit them all together, even a hierarchy. But the gods are actually organized. They're organized into categories, and namely these categories are celestial gods, aquatic gods, Chthonian gods or underworld gods, primordial gods, and etheric gods. The primordial and etheric gods are extremely, extremely old, ancient. To the ancient Greeks, these were their ancient gods. Some of them even called them the forgotten gods, primordial and etheric. Right. So with the Olympians, the three first categories, celestial, aquatic, and Chthonian. The first three categories were represented by the three brothers, namely Zeus, who would be the celestial, Poseidon, aquatic, and our favorite one of all, Hades himself. being the chthonic ruling power. Therefore, where does this actually lead us? It leads us rather to uh, sacrifices and offerings that we do for our gods. So sacrifices and offerings were done in accordance to this category. Uh, they were burnt for celestial, thrown in the sea or rivers for aquatic, and buried in the earth for chthonian. Right? Trust me. It gets better. Okay, so now the 12 Olympian gods we all know are the ruling pantheon, but we also know them as a generation of gods, and basically that's the whole the structure of the gods and goddesses is that they're basically just a big ass family, and they have generations, and each generation had um, certain gods or goddesses that were ruling, um, but certainly they weren't the only gods. They were just the ruling gods. So the Olympians actually were the fourth generation of gods. Uh, the third generation we well know is um, the Titans, of course. Uh, but the second generation were the little lesser known gods called Kabiri. The Kabiri are known as both primordial fire gods as well as a primitive people, actually. Some would go so far as to call them the first humans. Uh, but they are claimed, actually, uh, the most ancient stories of the creation of humans or mankind uh, were the Kabiri. The Kabiri had created mankind, so that's why we say they're the first humans. Uh, and finally, uh, we have the first generation of gods, known to us as the Moray. Um, that is not exactly the way you would pronounce that word, but in English, that's how it would be pronounced. In Greek, it's actually pronounced mire. The O and the I are create one sound. It's not O E, it's E, just E. So it's mire. The A and the I are, yeah. So they are said to have been here from the time before there were even humans. Uh, they really are of undetermined number, and their name actually means the fates, which is where the fates, yes, come from. The three fates, but there's many different numbers of them. The three fates is what had become, I guess, the more popular story. But there are more than just three of them. Yeah, that's what I said. Um, Now, if we put this through a historical filter, the generations of gods really represent the evolution of humanity. Uh, and this representation, we can, through that, we can determine uh, when each generation actually reigned. And it goes on to say the key or fundamental difference between the Olympians and the Titans was the working of metal. Uh, and that was encompassed by the god Hephaestus, because the Titans never had um, a god of metallurgy. That was a really new thing. So that tells us that the reign of the Olympians actually began uh, with the beginning of metallurgy. Like, when did they actually start? We usually would call that the Bronze Age. Now, the Bronze Age is determined by the region. Uh, the Bronze Age in, say, in the UK, which was much different than the Bronze Age in Greece. The Bronze Age in Greece and the Greek Peninsula uh, really began in and around 3000 BC. That was the beginning of the Bronze Age. So that's when they learned how to mix their metals and make real swords that wouldn't break. So that's how we can determine that in 3000 BC, the reign of the Olympians started. Now, Kronos, the father of Zeus, besides being known as the father of Zeus, um, he's been compared to Chronos, which, because the two names are so alike, but Chronos means time, and Chronos, as far as I could tell, I couldn't find a definition for it. Everything was saying it means time, because of the similarities, but they're not spelled the same. There's a big difference when you put a he instead of a K. You know, it's not Chronos. Chronos gives more of a feel of cracking or a bursting. Clavier, you know. I'm no linguist. Forget I even said anything. Back to this, please. Okay. But besides being the father of Zeus, he was also a god of the harvest. So, if the Titans ruled before the Olympians, that means that before the Bronze Age, we have the Neolithic era, which basically tells us then that that's when the Titans ruled. Um, the Neolithic era, though, in the Greek Peninsula, has been roughly determined to be around 8000 BC. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but roundabout. Okay. Uh, so we see that there was actually a 5,000 year reign of the Titans, uh, as opposed to the Kibiri who were before them, who are primordial, but they they ruled a lot longer. And they were accredited with the discovery of fire. They were primordial fire gods. Um, Fire from within the earth, fire from the sky, and fire from the water. Okay, so, but those are the Kibiri, and uh, well, okay, well, let's get to this then. For mythologists, the point of this is in really determining uh, the present day rulership. Like, uh, do the Olympians really still rule today, or um, you know, you know, although it might be adorable to think that the Olympians will rule forever, that's not exactly realistic uh, in any tradition, really. In the repertoire of the Greeks, there was a succession. I mean, if the Olympians are going to rule forever, I think the Titans might have a word with that. You know, like, wait a minute. But, and if we are to assume that since the Titans ruled for 5,000 years, logically speaking, then the Olympians would rule for 5,000 years. Uh, and if we do determine that, uh, that would make the end of Olympian rule uh, basically right in the palm of our lap. So, like, in our own day and age, because we are 5,000 years since the beginning of the Olympian rule. So, okay. All of this has raised questions. What happens to the gods who are no longer ruling? You know, are they no longer relevant? We can't work with them. They don't hear us. They don't have any more powers. You know, questions like that. But we're only talking really about uh, rulership, meaning uh, the, the perfection of it, the perfection of the in the field of the of evolution. So it's not really uh, it's not taking away anything from any of the gods. I mean, Zeus might no longer rule Olympus, but he's still a celestial god. He's still the god of the sky. He's still the god of thunder. He's still, you know, many things. That just doesn't go away. They don't die and, you know, evaporate or something. You know, so absolutely, the gods will always be relevant, and no matter when you call on them, if you call them the ruling pantheon is only really just to depict the present evolutional cycle. It's not to interfere with what God you call on. So absolutely, the gods are always relevant. Okay, so then here's the burning question for mythologists and everybody alike, I guess. I don't know. But so if the Olympians no longer rule, who's ruling now? I mean, who's in charge? Well, the truth is we're really in uncharted territory here, and the whole subject is very controversial, and it's greatly debated with among some mythologists and reconstructionists and the like. Be that as it may, and I pulled that right out of my sleeve like that. According to the mystery tradition, according to the mysteries, the fates had said it would be the child of Zeus and Metis, not of anybody else but with Metis. Very important. So this child of Zeus and Metis wasn't really supposed to be born. But our mythology, in mythology, we knew different things in the mysteries that the more the uninitiated didn't know. But that's really a big ball of wax right there. But in the mysteries, anyways, in the mysteries, Zeus doesn't really kill Metis. And who was born, was not Athena. In fact, all they seen was a full-grown adult shoot out of his head, fully armed. Interestingly enough, Athena's armor was made by her mother, Metis, who just happened to be a warrior titaness. She was also a master of transformation, which is what got her in trouble in the first place. And she turned herself into a fly, and Zeus swallowed her. But she didn't die. And she could have easily transformed herself into, she could have put on Athena's armor because she's the one who made it. She should have it. So she put on her armor and she became Athena and shot out of his head, none the wiser, took off, and gave birth not only to Athena, but to the second child, just like the fates had said. So this child was hidden away, of course. Sources, I hear you. Sources, the sources are embedded, it's embedded in the folklore of the people of the regions. And that's my source. But again, folklore in Greek, most of it is communicated by word of mouth, but the stuff that is written and published in books are in Greek. I don't know of any English translations. So, this child is the one who is destined to rule today. So, he was a twin brother of Athena. I have a whole list of attributes, but basically, the embodiment of wisdom, the secret child of the mysteries. To the uninitiated, he was known as Vakho or Bako, B-A-K-O. B in Greek is pronounced as a V, Vako. And his generation belongs to the family of the Kabiri, and were known as Atlanteans. So, who rules today according to the mysteries? It's the Atlanteans, and Vako is the ruler, and though he doesn't have a consort because he's a child, he is also the first god to distinguish himself from the other gods by being the first. He was called the god of inspiration, but really what he was, inspiration, he was the god of the arts and sciences. Totally unheard of with mythologists, and really, really puts a pepper up their ass. But you can't deny it. And the god of inspiration, Vako, pronounce it properly. Anyways, okay. That's basically what I wanted to talk to you about, the Greek gods in general. I hope you found it informative. I hope you don't hate it too much. I hope I wasn't, and if I was, I'm thankful for your patience and your your tolerance. Okay, so it's raining outside today. What a perfect day for a video. So everybody be safe, and we'll talk again.